It is therefore ordered that you shall be put to death by electrocution in the mode prescribed by law, that you shall be transferred to custody of the warden. Your body shall be subjected to shock by sufficient current of electricity. May God have mercy upon you.
Can I please have my mom before I go?
Mr. Bates, please hold Ms. Pike in the dock.
Please, let me just love my mom.
Please hold Ms.
I love you. I love you too. I love you too.
This woman, Christa Pike, is the youngest in U.S. history to receive the death sentence. A tale woven from jealousy, a chilling obsession with the occult, and one horrifying night that plunged an entire city into disbelief. On a brisk January morning in 1995, a husband and wife jogging near the University of Tennessee's agricultural campus spotted a trail of blood across the frosty leaves. Following the trail, they discovered the brutally beaten remains of a young woman, half clothed and left with harrowing wounds, her skull partially shattered, a crude symbol carved into her flesh, and what appeared to be a grisly keepsake taken by her attacker. That shocking moment tore through the peace of Knoxville, a community known for rolling hills and southern warmth. In the days that followed, investigators pieced together evidence leading to a teenage suspect who seemed to relish the violence. As the truth emerged, it revealed a terrifying blend of personal vendettas, dark rituals, and a craving for bloodshed, each clue pointing toward a teenage suspect who seemed to relish violence. That suspect was Christa Pike, and the shocking details of her crime would cement her place as one of the most unsettling figures in Tennessee's modern history. Knoxville, Tennessee in the mid-1990s held a population of around 175,000 people. Bustling with students attending the nearby University of Tennessee, the city was also known for a specific educational program, Job Corps. Located near Dale Avenue in northwestern Knoxville, this now closed facility offered free academic and vocational training for disadvantaged youth. At its best, Job Corps served as a second chance for individuals who had dropped out of high school or struggled with poverty, drugs, or unstable home environments. Yet, by 1995, the Knoxville Job Corps Center had earned a reputation for mismanagement and frequent run-ins with the law. Trouble brewed often within its dormitories, where students from difficult backgrounds sometimes clashed instead of bonding. Indeed, the center closed in April of 1995, not long after a final scandal made the headlines. That scandal was the killing that would forever change how Knoxville remembered its Job Corps, and it all traced back to one fateful night in January when 4 young people left the dorms together, and only 3 returned. Before the events of that dark winter evening, a young woman named Christa Pike arrived at the Knoxville Job Corps with hopes of turning her life around. Born in 1976, Christa spent her early years primarily under the care of her grandmother. Her mother's struggles with alcoholism and her father's absence meant Christa's home life was unstable. When her grandmother died, Christa returned to her mother, fell into drug use, and ended up in juvenile detention for theft. Still, there was a glimmer of hope in Job Corps, at least on paper. Christa was officially enrolled to study nursing, though she appeared more interested in exploring social circles than hitting the books. Not long after arriving, she met a young man named Tatterell Shipp, a Memphis native who had arrived at Job Corps to study culinary arts. Tatterell also had a history marred by poverty and gang involvement. Now, he was eager for a fresh start, but he brought a fascination with the occult, Satanism, and dark rituals that both disturbed and intrigued others. Christa and Tatterell became inseparable. Fueled by teenage dread and obsessive feelings, they formed a bond that revolved around rebellion and curiosity about demonic worship. Another student, named Shadala Peterson, often hung around them and shared some of their interests. All 3 lived in the Job Corps dormitories, forging tight friendships in an environment meant for self-improvement. Still, beneath the surface, resentments and jealousy simmered, particularly when another student named Colleen Slemmer appeared to compete, at least in Christa's eyes, for Tatterell's attention. Colleen Slemmer came from Jacksonville, Florida, and had no especially traumatic backstory. She was at Job Corps to study computer technology and seemed to be an ordinary, hard-working student to those around her. Yet, in Christa's mind, Colleen had overstepped her boundaries. According to rumors, Christa believed Colleen was trying to flirt with Tatterell or disrupt their relationship. Colleen denied it, as did mutual friends who insisted she had zero romantic interest in Tatterill. Nevertheless, Christa's suspicions only grew stronger. Reports surfaced that she confronted Colleen more than once, accusing her of prowling around in the middle of the night or peeking into her room. Whether those allegations had any basis in reality remained unclear. What was certain, however, was Christa's fixation on Colleen, an obsession that would soon push her to extremes. Sensing that Colleen was somehow a threat, Christa told friends she felt mean and wanted to do something about it. All of these tensions built until the evening of January 12, 1995. On that night, Christa convinced Colleen to join her, Tatterill, and Shadola outside the dorm, with the promise of sharing some smoke. The group walked off campus around 8 p.m., strolling beyond the well-lit areas. When next seen, only 3 of them returned. Unaware of the horror unfolding in the shadowy outskirts, most Job Corps students simply assumed the group had gone off to party or break curfew. No one would discover the terrifying truth until the sun rose the following day. If you're finding this story captivating, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more gripping true crime content. Your support means a lot. Thank you. In a secluded wooded spot not far from the University of Tennessee's agricultural campus, Christa Pike confronted Colleen Slemmer. What began as an argument escalated to violence in a matter of moments. According to later confessions, Christa accused Colleen of trying to steal Tatterill and then attacked her. Tatterill aided Christa in cornering the terrified victim, while Shadola served as a lookout, though the extent of her involvement would become a point of debate. The scene that followed was vicious. Armed with a box cutter, Christa inflicted deep slashes on Colleen's torso. Each time Colleen tried to break free, Tatterill chased her down, preventing any chance of escape. The assault lasted close to an hour, a cruel episode of torture that escalated to even more disturbing acts. A piece of asphalt was used to crush Colleen's skull, and a gruesome mark, a pentagram, was cut into her chest, reflecting Christa and Tatterill's warped interest in satanic themes. Tragically, the violence ended only after Colleen's injuries became fatal. Later, Christa would brag about taking a piece of Colleen's skull as a trophy. By the time they left the woods, the killer seemed entirely unshaken. Back at the dorm, Christa shared grisly details with at least one other student, openly boasting about what she and Tatterill had done. She even displayed her chilling memento, still flecked with blood, while dancing happily and describing the fatal blows.
Over here.
She was dancing around in a circle.
Who was dancing around in the circle?
Krista.
Dancing around the circle while she was telling you about this?
Yes.
Was she doing anything else?
She was smiling.
Making any other noises or anything?
She was kind of singing la la la.
This apparent glee in recounting the torture left everyone who heard it deeply disturbed by her cruelty. When Colleen's body was discovered on January 13, 1995, law enforcement began piecing together the evidence. The brutality of the scene, blood spattered across dead leaves, articles of clothing tossed about, and footprints marking signs of a struggle, was unlike anything Knoxville police had witnessed in a long time. The victim, unidentified at first, had been beaten and slashed repeatedly, confirming that the attack had been personal, lengthy, and fueled by rage. While detectives processed the crime scene, staff at Job Corps noticed something amiss. Colleen hadn't signed back in the previous night, but 3 individuals, Christa, Tatterill, and Shadola, had. A more thorough check of records revealed that they had all left around the same time. That alone might not have been enough for an arrest, but rumors flew around the campus about Christa parading a piece of bone and bragging of a killing. Concerned students alerted their parents, who in turn contacted the authorities. Police wasted no time. They questioned Christa, Tatterill, and Shadola on January 15th. All 3 quickly crumbled under the weight of their own statements, each admitting involvement to varying degrees. Christa was the most open about what had happened, recounting details that only someone at the crime scene could know.
You know, it's harder to hurt somebody when they're talking to you and you have to see another person.
Right.
And I told her, shut up. She was still breathing. I said, Colleen, do you know who's doing this to you? And she was just going, just talking like that. But I don't know what she was saying.
When they searched her room, police recovered items that tied her to the murder. Most incriminatingly, the fragment of Colleen's skull. Equally disturbing, they found evidence of Christa and Tatterall's fascination with the occult, including a small shrine intended for rituals.
The brutal murder of 19-year-old Colleen Slemmer created fear and speculation among students and staff Friday. Knoxville police quickly dispelled any myths about the case with a break in their investigation.
It did not involve a university student. It did not occur on the bike trail. It was not a random or a stranger-to-stranger incident.
Police say the murder suspects were close to the victim.
The motive of the crime appears to be a love triangle. It appears that both of the females involved had been involved with a 17-year-old male.
The victim's partially dressed body was found in this brushy area Friday morning. An autopsy confirmed she was slashed repeatedly with a meat cleaver and some other small cutting device, perhaps a razor blade or box opener. Authorities say she was then beaten over the head with a large chunk of asphalt from this pile.
If you're still with us, make sure to like and subscribe to keep up with more shocking true crime stories. Your support helps us bring these stories to light. Don't miss out on what's next. The public reaction was immediate and intense. Local news outlets ran stories on the slaying of 19-year-old Colleen Slemmer, focusing on the alleged satanic ritual elements and the shocking brutality. In March 1996, Christa Pike appeared in court to face charges of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence, confessions, eyewitness accounts, and the barbaric state of Colleen's injuries. They argued that Christa's violence went well beyond a random brawl, that she had planned it and taken perverse pleasure in the act.
The injuries that Christa Pike caused to be inflicted upon Colleen Slemmer are almost beyond description.
It was at this location that Colleen Slemmer was actually pleading for her life, and Christa Pike showed her no mercy. The body of Colleen Slemmer ended up in this general area right over here.
Shadala Peterson turned state's witness, describing the tension in the days leading up to Colleen's death. Her testimony revealed that Christa and Tatterall had even discussed a human sacrifice, though the specific plan was unclear. The defense for Christa pointed to her troubled childhood, mental disorders, and a history of substance abuse. They insisted she was emotionally unstable and influenced by Tatterall's dark interests. However, the jury was not swayed. After mere hours of deliberation, they found her guilty on both major counts.
It is therefore ordered that you shall be put to death by electrocution in the mode prescribed by law, and that you shall be transferred to the custody of the warden at the Tennessee Prison for Women. And further, on the 12th day of January 1997, your body shall be subjected to shock by a sufficient current of electricity. May God have mercy upon you. Mr. Bates, take Mr. Pike into the door.
Can I please have my mom before I go?
Mr. Bates, please hold Ms. Pike in the dock.
Please, let me just love my mom.
Please hold Ms. Pike in the dock.
I love you. I love you too. And I love you too.
Christa became the youngest woman in the United States to be sentenced to death in March 1996. She received the punishment by electrocution, Tennessee's method of capital punishment at that time, though lethal injection would remain a future possibility. Meanwhile, Tatterall Shipp, who was under 18 when the crime occurred, received a life sentence with the possibility of parole after 25 years. Shadola received a sentence of probation for her cooperation. The savage nature of the killing left many convinced that justice had been served, but the story was far from over. Even after her sentencing, Christa Pike's time behind bars was marked by further violence and dramatic twists.
I'm 22 years old and this is it for me. And there's just so much more that I wanted to do with my life than be sitting in a room by myself 23 hours a day. I should be out going to school or working and having fun with my friends. That's my mom and my stepdad. The cat Tigger, I just love him. I love my dog Ed. These are the only kind of stuffed animals we can have because we can't have the ones that are stuffed with things in them. They think we might hide something in there. Well, breakfast is at about 6:30. Then I get up when it's time to go outside and exercise. Come back in and go to the shower. come back, and I'm in here for the rest of the day until I go outside tomorrow.
In 2001, she allegedly attempted to strangle a fellow inmate with a shoelace. Though she was already on death row, she faced an additional conviction related to assault, adding more legal complications to her record. In 2012, her name surfaced again in a bizarre escape plot involving two men. One was a former guard at the prison, and another was an admirer who had been writing to her. Authorities caught wind of the plan before it got anywhere, underscoring the lingering obsession people had with her case. Meanwhile, Christa navigated a maze of appeals, revocations, and legal maneuvers. She once requested an expedited execution date, then reversed course and sought every possible delay. Her lawyers argued that she deserved a stay of execution based on her mental health challenges and the disorganized oversight at her original trial.
There's nobody that's going to take me out of this prison and send me to Disneyland with them. It's okay, Mommy.
The state of Tennessee countered that she had already exhausted her legal avenues. Calls to carry out her sentence continued into the 2000s and 20s, but as of yet, no firm execution date has been set. More than 25 years after Colleen Slemmer's death, Christa remains the sole woman on Tennessee's death row, having spent more of her life behind bars than outside.
I think I deserve to be in here for the rest of my life. I do, I know I do. I know I don't deserve to be out walking around with everybody else in normal society. I did something horrible that is unacceptable, and I realize that. But I don't deserve to die for the actions of 3 individuals when I'm only one person.
The Knoxville Job Corps, tainted by the notoriety of her crime, ultimately closed within a few months of the murder. As time presses on, the debate persists about whether a life defined by tragedy and emotional trauma can ever justify such barbarity.
The state of Tennessee is looking to set an execution date for death row inmate Christa Pike. Defense lawyers say it's too early to set an execution date, arguing the Tennessee Supreme Court should commute her death sentence. The lawyers filed papers before the state's highest court yesterday. It's in response to the Tennessee Attorney General's office, who says Pike has exhausted all appeals options. Pike is the only woman on the state's death row.
For the family of Colleen Slemmer, the pain of losing their loved ones so brutally is a wound that will never fully heal. For the legal system, the case endures as a reminder of how quickly a place meant for rehabilitation can become the site of senseless violence. The legacy of Christa Pike's case is one of darkness and caution. It warns of how personal obsessions, fears, and envy can spiral into an unstoppable nightmare. It also shows that some tragedies are so extreme, they draw entire communities into debate over morality, the death penalty, and the balance between justice and mercy. No matter how her legal odyssey concludes, the story of Christa Pike and the horrors she unleashed will remain one of Tennessee's most unsettling chapters. Thank you for joining us in uncovering the chilling details of this case. If this story has left you disturbed or reflective, please share your thoughts and reflections. Remember to like, subscribe, and stay with us as we continue to explore the stories that reveal the darkest sides of human behavior. Together, we keep these lessons alive, ensuring the voices of victims are never forgotten. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe or follow.